fellow travelers, Mark and
Rob from Trip Packs DC.
And today we're going to give you some budget travel advice when you're coming here to DC, because it does not always mean a cheap vacation when you come to the nation's capital. Wouldn't you agree?
It's a high-cost city, I'm not going to lie about that.
So what we're here today is going to go through accommodation tips, tour tips, sightseeing tips, food tips, stuff that's going to help you save some money when you do come here, because you don't have to break the bank. It's very easy to break your bank here, but there's some things we need to do. And I think we need to start off by talking about accommodation.
When you come really matters. If you're coming here when not a lot of people are around, you're going to get a good deal. If you're coming at a time when a lot of people are around, you're going to pay a premium.
Yeah, I mean, we're here in January, and we were here a few years ago in July, and I literally paid 1/3 of the price for my hotel room, same hotel that I did 3 years ago, because we're coming in off season. That's a big thing. So one thing that can help you when you're looking for accommodation, no matter what time of the year you're coming, is really research different hotels and don't be kind of stuck thinking one hotel is always more expensive. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on events. If there's events happening, conferences, conventions, basketball tournaments, other things, a hotel might be completely booked because it is the official hotel of that event. And if you try to book there, it's going to be really expensive. So sometimes if you look nearby, look around, you can find other hotels that have a lot more availability. And with more availability comes a little bit better rates.
And then you can actually sometimes get a much nicer hotel for a more affordable price. And you're like, how is this possible? But that's why it's important to check around. Now, second thing we need to talk about is food, because for as many free things as we'll talk about later there is, when it comes to food, there's not a lot of cheap options. And so, Rob, help me. Help me figure out how I can keep my manly figure when I'm here on a budget.
Yeah, there's a lot of free activities, a lot of free museums in DC, but you're not going to eat for free. You've got to pay when you come. And so my favorite restaurants are what we call fast casual restaurants. And so these are places that are better than fast food. These are above McDonald's or Taco Bell quality, right? But they're not sit down, have a server come serve you, bring your drinks, all that stuff. And so, you know, most people probably know about Chipotle, for example. That's a fast casual restaurant. But I also like places like Taquerian and Cava. Those are some places that are similar concept, but much more affordable than your sit-down restaurant.
Yeah, and I think another thing is important is when you're looking at going out to eat, sometimes the time of the day can make a big difference. I know one of the things you hooked me up with last time I was here were the happy hours, right?
Yeah, happy hours are much more affordable if you're going to be drinking, if you want to order beers and wines. You can get drinks at a happy hour sometimes for half the price that you would get them if you ordered them during dinner. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Beers, wines, and especially cocktails during dinner are not cheap, and you're not going to find deals on that. If you want the deals, you can go to happy hour, which are typically, before 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, depending on which place you're going to, and that's where you're going to find the deals.
And I think another thing, and you'll notice this when you're here, is if you're looking to cut costs when it comes to food, a lot of times it's breakfast is the easiest one to cut out.
Yeah, I don't really even eat breakfast. I'm going to be honest about that. I always drink a cup of coffee.
You can tell, breakfast, no breakfast.
Yeah, I always get a cup of coffee, and I might get a granola bar or something simple. And that's one thing you can do to save some money is if you're not a breakfast person, you could go to Starbucks and you could get a regular black coffee, and you could get a little pastry or something there, or if it's not Starbucks, a local coffee shop, and just get a little pastry, and that's your breakfast. And that's going to be a lot less expensive than going to a restaurant. And also, we just don't really have a lot of breakfast restaurants, right?
Now, brunch on the weekends, you can find places, right?
You can get brunch anywhere. Every place any restaurant that's open is going to serve brunch on the weekends. But it's not like we have a lot of diners, for example. Greasy Spoons, that's kind of a relic of the past. We don't really have a lot of breakfast restaurants anymore. So I like to cheap out on breakfast because it's the easiest one too.
And the thing is cheaping out on breakfast gets me thinking about there's stuff you can cheap out on, but also I think it's important that you kind of pick and choose a lot of things, whether it's food or tours or museums. And like with restaurants for us, like my mom and I, we ate at a wonderful French restaurant last night. But for lunch today, we went to food courts and did that. And I think overall, it's important to kind of think about picking and choosing when you should spend or don't spend it. I mean, Rob's a tour guide. And there's one thing I recommend spending money on is actually getting a tour guide. I mean, I'll let you talk about this. This is your area, but...
Yeah, you can wander around and you can look at the sites. You can look at the Capitol from the outside and the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial down on the other side of the park. And that's all completely free. And many people do that, and that's perfectly fine. But you could also sign up for a guided tour. And many people who come to DC say that that's often their most memorable experience. And when I travel, I'm not just saying this because I'm a tour guide, whenever I travel, I always sign up for tours, multiple tours usually during a trip.
And one, if you're looking at food, the food tours, those can be fun too, right?
Oh, that's something I always do. When I'm in a new city, a city that I'm going to for the first time, I always sign up for a food tour because that gives you a chance to taste all the local foods, the signature foods of that city, and it usually replaces at least one meal, if not a meal and a half. And so it can actually save you a little bit of money because you don't have to get dinner that day you're going on the food tour. The food tour is your dinner.
Exactly. That's a wonderful recommendation. And you know, the tours take you around, but also we have to look at transport, because the cheapest transportation that you're going to have in DC are
your own 2 feet.
That's right. Because this is a city of walking. My mom and I have been putting on about 9 miles a day walking around. And it's not like we haven't seen stuff, because you're going from place to place to place to place to place to place to place. And then in the museums, it's walking. So you need good shoes, but you don't have to like Uber everywhere. You don't have to taxi everywhere. You can, but your 2 feet are the best things to have. Now, other helpful budget options for transportation, if you don't want to do the walking, are
the Circulator Bus. At the time we're recording this, $1, the cheapest transportation in town. Circulator Bus. I know a lot of people who come to DC, they love the Circulator Bus because it's cheap and it's convenient and it gets you to places where you want to go. But you could also do the Metro if you needed to get a little bit farther away.
Yep. So then we have our 5th topic, and that are the sites and the free sites to see. And here's the thing, there's tons of fantastic free sites to see here. And you know how you're going to learn about them? You're going to go click on that button over there, and you're going to go watch Rob's video on 10 free places to see here in DC, because the dude knows what he's talking about. Fantastic guy. Please tell him, Rob, tell him where to find you.
Trip Hacks DC here on YouTube, triphacksdc.com in your web browser. And I'm sure Mark will be generous enough to put a link to all of those things in the video description.
And I will be honest, when we were talking about the tours before, a 3-hour tour with him, for me, saved me so much more time. I got so much more out of my trip. So that actually, it costed money, but it was worth the time. So think about that as well. So we'll see you later, and bye from here in DC.
Bye.